We call Investigator John Schultz.
Investigator, please stand. Raise your right hand and be sworn.
You swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Please have a seat in the witness chair. Mr. Anderson,
Can you please state your first and last name and spell your last name?
It's John Schultz, last name spelling Shilts.
And how are you employed?
I'm an investigator with the St. Croix County Sheriff's Office.
Can you briefly describe your training and experience for your position?
Again, specifically to investigations, I have attended numerous courses geared towards investigators and detectives.
And are you trained in doing processing digital evidence?
I am.
What other roles have you held at St. Croix County Sheriff's Office?
I started in the jail as a corrections deputy. Then I went to field services where I was a patrol deputy. Some of the extra activities or specialized activities that I've been in include K9, honor guard, dive team, an operator for our ERU team, crisis negotiator, to name a few.
ERU, is that what some places refer to as like a SWAT team?
It is.
And are you the lead investigator on this case?
I am.
How did you end up as the lead investigator?
We have on-call weekends, and I was on call that weekend.
Did you respond to the scene at the Sunrise Bridge?
I did.
When you were there, did you make contact with some of the witnesses who testified?
I did.
And do you recall who you spoke with at the scene?
As far as witnesses that have testified, I spoke with Owen Peliquin, Ryan Nelson, Alex Vang, Madison Cohen, Janelle Duxbury, Quentin Carlson, and I believe that was it.
And was that a in-depth interview or quickly gathering information? How was that?
I was looking just for quick synopsis, name, date of birth, telephone number, and a synopsis.
Were you trying to sort out who actually saw things and who were just bystanders?
I was.
When you made contact with Owen Pelican, Alex Vang, and Ryan Nelson, those were all, they were with Isaac's group?
They were.
Did you notice any signs of intoxication when you spoke with them?
I did not.
Did you notice any slurred speech?
I did not.
Any swaying while they were standing?
No, sir.
And that was on body cam when you were interacting with them?
It was, yes.
Did you get blood or breath samples for BAC for the witnesses you spoke with?
I did not.
Why not?
I had no clues of impairment for any of them.
Did you, you heard you were here for Sally Standard's testimony. Did you collect any buccal swabs?
I did, from Anthony Carlson.
And was that placed in evidence and secured in the sheriff's office?
Yes.
Have you ever been trained that you're supposed to put DNA samples in refrigeration?
No.
There's been some questions of witnesses about, have you seen the video? Did law enforcement ever show witnesses the video of the incident prior to interviews?
No.
And did you go anywhere else from the Sunrise Bridge? Let me rephrase. Did you do any more interviews that day?
I did.
And where were those done?
At Regions Hospital.
And who'd you speak with there?
At Regions, I spoke with Quentin Carlson again, Anthony Carlson, Tony Carlson, he goes by, Dante Carlson, I believe that was it that day. I attempted to talk to Riley and AJ, but I couldn't because of their conditions.
As part of the investigation, did law enforcement search the river for evidence,
We did,
including actually in the water?
correct.
How was that done?
We utilized our dive team who came over and searched that area.
Did that include metal detectors?
It did.
Did they find any knives?
They did, yes.
And can you describe those?
I can. One was a corroded box cutter and another was a corroded pocket knife.
And when you say corroded, do you mean looked like they've been in the water for a while?
Yes, sir.
Watching the video, part of what you got is the video from Joanne, and then you got individual frames of that video, right?
I did, yes.
And so were you able to, by looking at the total frames compared to the total length of the video, figure out the frames per second for that video?
Yes, it is 24 frames per second on average.
I want to ask you about Larion Davis. So did you make contact with him on scene of the river?
I did, yes.
And did he mention something about having a video?
He did.
And did you get that video from him?
I did, yes.
And how did that happen?
I asked him to email it to me and he thought it was going to be too big, so he texted it to me.
And did you see it come through in your text?
I did.
You were here when it was played in court, that video?
Yes,
And is that the video? Is that how you received it?
I believe so.
And did you notice right away that it was all blurry?
I did. After I started to review it, yes, I did.
But right away when he sent it to you, did you notice?
I did not, no.
Did you follow up? Did law enforcement follow up with Larion to try to get the original?
We did, yes.
And what was done to try to get the original unblurred or version?
It was sent, well, first we recovered his phone. Is that what you're asking? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
First, we recovered his phone. We learned that Larion's phone had water damage and that it was sent to an Apple facility in Indiana. We acquired a search warrant to obtain that. We did get that. I got the phone back. Part of my duties, I do extractions on electronics to include cell phones. And I was not able to get an extraction from his device. Because I couldn't do that, we also utilized other methods, including search warrants to his cell phone provider, Snapchat, as well as iCloud, in an attempt to get that video.
Were you ever able to get the original video?
We were not.
And did you do anything to see if you could try to get the video enhanced or cleaned up so it would go from distorted to more like how a normal video would look from a cell phone?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
I was sent to MOCIC, which is, I believe it's Mid-States Organized Crime Information Center. They offer a lot of resources to a number of law enforcement agencies. They have a lot more resources than most agencies can afford. One of those things that they can do is assist law enforcement with videos, photographs, things of that nature. So I sent it to them.
And did you get back another version of the video?
I did.
Did it look like a normal cell phone video?
No.
Is MOIC?
No.
Still blurry?
Correct.
Was and what was the acronym you used?
MOCIC.
MOCIC. Is that also who did the frames for you?
It is.
I'm just gonna pull up exhibit 2 so that you can see the difference between the two videos. It's the wrong exhibit. It's gonna be 21, Judge.
I had planned to take another break before lunch. I was going to suggest maybe we break now while you're looking
Sure.
at your video.
Sure.
So let's take a short 10-minute break. We'll come back shortly before 11 o'clock. All rise for the jury.
Two hearts inside your eyes, can you feel the rush?
Please be seated. All right, we're back on the record with the attorneys, Mr. Mew and 14 jurors. We are ready to resume. Mr. Anderson, are you ready? Your
Yes.
video? Go ahead and play it. Investigator Schultz, please retake the witness stand.
Investigator Schultz, so this bottom one, would that be the original video you got from Larry and Davis?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just gonna open it up, Judge, and just go through a few frames so the jury can see the comparison.
Yes.
Okay. And this resized one is the one you got from MOCIC?
Correct.
Were there any items that were turned in as found from civilians that turned out to have some connection to the case?
Yes, there was.
Was one of those a cell phone?
Yes.
And were you able to determine the owner of the cell phone?
I was. When I received the cell phone, again, part of my job is doing cell phone extractions. I took the SIM card out of the phone and recognized it as belonging to T-Mobile. So I contacted T-Mobile, provided them with identifying numbers on that SIM card, and I learned the phone belonged to Ariel.
And was another item that was turned in a pocket knife?
Yes,
And can you just, what brand pocket knife was it?
Tactical Gears.
And was there somebody that was interviewed that described having lost a tactical gears knife on that day on the river?
Yes, Mr. Baldozo, I believe is how you pronounce his last name.
Would that be the husband of the nurse, Andrea, who testified?
It would be, yes.
So are you aware that that Nikolai said in his interview that one of the boys had a kitchen knife?
I am,
And was a kitchen knife located?
yes.
Where was that located?
At the hideaway?
Yes.
So this is Exhibit 25A, the river map. So the incident is here, kitchen knife was found here.
Yes.
Did you review body cam regarding, for the time that the kitchen knife was found?
I did.
Was it discussed over the radio?
It was.
Was Nikolai in custody at that time?
Yes.
And were the officers around him wearing radios?
They were.
Was there a radio in the squad car when he got placed in the squad car?
Yes.
So I want to talk a little bit about Madison Cohen. I think you said Madison Cohen is one of the ones you made brief contact with at the scene?
Yes.
Do you recall seeing any injury on Madison Cohen?
I did not.
Were you present for her testimony that when she said the sheriff's office told her that the sheriff's office didn't want a photo of her injuries?
I was.
Is that true?
No.
And had you actually previously made efforts to retrieve the photo that she said she took?
Yes.
What was that?
I did an extraction. I did not do the extraction. I reviewed an extraction from Madison Cohen's cellular device. I also did an extraction and reviewed it on Madison Cohen's mother's device.
Why'd you do her mother's phone also?
I learned that Madison was not sure if she took the photo or if her mother took the photo. So both provided their cell phones so law enforcement could search them for the photos.
And did you locate any photos during the time frame she said she thought she took it that could have been, or that was consistent with her description?
Not during the time frame, no.
And were there any deleted photos recovered from either phone?
They were not.
And when you do a download, why don't you just explain to the jury how you do a forensic download on a phone?
Sure. So a phone in particular, I'll get the device. There's a lot of different variables, but I'll summarize. We pay for software, and I can plug the phone into a box, which goes into our computer, which more or less copies the data on the device and then puts it into a readable format that's user-friendly so we can review the data. It's not uncommon that we don't always get everything. And really, there's no rhyme or reason. Even the trainers, when I'm going through all these courses, say sometimes they don't know why we get X and sometimes why we do. Just electronics or electronics. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
When you do a forensic download, and including with Madison's phone and her mother's phone, that includes everything the download's able to pull off the phone?
Correct.
So photos, texts, calls, all those things?
Yes.
And so you testified sheriff's office didn't tell her you didn't want the photos. Were you present for a meeting at the DA's office with Maddie when the photos were discussed?
I was.
And what was Madison? Well, did she express some anxiety about deleting the photos?
She did, yes.
And was there an effort to console her?
Yes.
And what was said to her?
Not to worry about the photos.
So she wasn't told you didn't want them. She was told not to worry about it.
Correct.
And that was after you'd already made all these efforts to get the phone that she consented to?
Yes, well after.
So you're the court officer, so you've been present for the trial.
Yes, sir.
And you recall the testimony with Lieutenant Coleman about how or he got those points for incident locations from you, right?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury how you estimated those circles for the incident location and the group locations?
I can. As stated earlier, I got frame by frames from that MOCIC, which was taken from the original, or one of the videos from Mr. Cockfield. From those frame by frames, I walked out to the river. I would get in generalized locations and review the photos from the video, the frame by frames, to landmarks on shore, which assisted me in getting in the general location of where the person taking the video, in this case, Mr. Cockfield, was at specific times.
And do you remember how long you were out there? Was it a half hour or several hours?
It was several hours.
And that you said you're comparing frames to the terrain?
Correct.
Did you walk all along the scene, like from the area of the bridge to that area of the sandbar?
Yes, I wasn't right next to the bridge, but where that grassy area was, where victims were being pulled out from that area down to the sandbar, yes.
And this wasn't on July 30th, right?
No,
Do you recall when it was?
I went out there on multiple occasions. I believe twice in August and once in September.
And were there any deep spots in the river in that area?
Not really. There was one kind of back by the sandbar, if you would continue going upriver. And then there was one kind of in the area of the bridge towards the center of the river.
Okay. Approach?
Yes, you may.
This is marked as Exhibit 89. Can you draw on here? Well, actually, is the bridge on this map?
No,
So the area by the bridge, would that be above where this map cuts off?
yes,
And where was you said there's another spot kind of closer to the sandbar?
where it was deeper?
Yeah.
Yes, actually almost right where it says that 155.31 in that general location.
Around here?
Yes, sir.
And the other one would have been,
Up closer to the bridge, yes.
okay. And how deep?
I could touch the whole time. to my recollection, like my stomach, maybe up to my chest.
And the rest of the areas of that section of the river, what was the depth like from what you recall?
It varied, but not much. Definitely, I shouldn't say definitely. For the most part, it was below my knee. Sometimes it would go up to my thighs,
Lower thigh or upper thigh?
lower thigh. And depending on where it was, again, like,
Sure. And you said when you're out there, you're taking photos.
I did. I also took photos myself, yes.
Judge, this is Exhibit 84. I'd ask to publish.
Has 84 been received into evidence?
No, I'd move to admit it and then.
Any objection to 84? All right, 84 is received. Go ahead and publish.
I'll let the clerk know when I'm ready. All right, I'm ready. So it looks like there's 132 photos. I'm not going to go through all of them with you. So what are we looking at here in the image one?
My back would be to the bridge, kind of near that grassy point where victims were being pulled out, and we're looking upstream.
And I'm just going to go through, this is 2 until we get closer to some 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to keep scrolling. So what are these flags? This is image 13. What are these flags we're seeing?
I used those flags when I had the frame by frames. I would mark them, so then we would know where that spot was and I could continue to the next spot.
And from this is how you came up with those locations on that map, Exhibit 89?
Yes.
You can take the screen down. I don't have anything else.
Mr. Trofficy?
Investigator Schultz, have you had, being the lead investigator in this case, does every report, every interview, everything ultimately work its way across your desk?
No, sir.
Okay. So you don't, if this is fair, you don't see some of the work that other people are doing in the case, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. You, in terms of your background, you are or have been involved in the crisis negotiation team,
Yes, sir.
okay, and the SWAT team, right?
Yes, sir.
Would it be fair if I said to you, those are situations in your experience, your training and experience, that sometimes involve highly stressful events?
Correct.
You were asked a couple of questions regarding the knives that were located in the river.
Yes, sir.
Remember that? Okay.
I do.
And then you had mentioned that a civilian, I think you mentioned, a civilian had located a knife that had belonged to a Robert Beldozo. Is that right?
Yes.
And do you know, as the lead investigator, Robert Beldozo's kind of involvement in this case?
I do, yes.
you know when that knife, because Mr. Boldozo lost the knife, to be fair, on that day, right, on the 30th.
Yes,
He lost it in the river going to that scene. Is that right?
I don't believe so, sir.
You don't believe that he had pulled his knife out and was running over to the scene and then fell and dropped it?
I've watched a lot of the body cam, and I'm not trying to be argumentative.
You're not?
I think he said at one point he thought he pulled it out, but in the body camera footage, you can actually see it clipped like in the back of his swim trunks. So I'm not sure when it was lost. I apologize.
No, but he's saying it was lost on that day, right?
Yes, sir.
Going to, or as he's moving toward that incident, right?
I believe he said he wasn't sure when he lost it. If there's a report, I could review it, but
Oh, that's okay. I'll talk to him about it.
okay.
You also mentioned that in your, I guess, training and experience, these clips and videos that we're watching, just so I understand it, when we go through these stills, 24 of those consecutive stills equals 1 second in time. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right. And I want to ask you some questions about your duties or your responsibilities on the 30th of July.
Yes, sir.
And on the 30th of July, you're wearing, as this is going on and you arrive on the scene, you're wearing a body camera. True?
Yes.
You make contact with, I think you said, I'm not saying in which order, but you make contact with Owen Poliquin, Ryan Nelson, and Alex Vang, right?
Correct.
Do they ever mention to you that they have information that he was looking for little girls, Mr. Mew?
I do not believe they did.
Okay. You then have contact with Ms. Cohen. Is that right?
Correct.
And you had contact with her, I think, 2 times, maybe briefly, but 2 times, right?
I believe that's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. And she's providing you some information as to what had happened, right?
Correct.
And how long, I don't know if I heard this, how long have you been an officer?
I don't recall the exact dates. I've been employed by St. Croix County for 16 years this month. 3 of that was in dispatch, 3 was in the jail, the rest field services.
Okay, so for a substantial period of your career, you're out trying to investigate alleged criminal behavior, right?
Yes.
And with what you know at that point about what's going on, you're looking at Madison Cohen as you're talking to her, right?
Yes.
Okay. Having been a law enforcement officer for the length of time that you have, if you had noticed something on her face which was consistent with what she was telling you, would you note that?
Yes.
Okay, so if I said to you, Investigator Schultz, somebody punched me in the face. If I had physical injuries that were consistent with that, you'd write that down, right?
Yes.
Okay. Would you, in some situations, photograph that?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't see on either one of your contacts with her on that day anything on her face that supports the claim that she was punched, correct?
Correct.
Do you remember her testimony saying that it was, her eye was puffy? Do you remember that?
Vaguely, I believe. Yes.
Okay. You didn't see that, did you?
No.
Do you remember she also mentioned that the next day she had like some yellow, almost like bruising? Do you remember that?
I'm sorry. I don't remember saying that. If you're telling me she did, I believe you.
No, she says any bruise. The question was any bruise. She said a little yellow.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Do you say to people in this particular case, do you say to Ms. Cohen, look, if something shows up later, physical injury shows up later, capture that for us. We'd like that.
I don't recall what all I said, sir.
Okay, but was that something that you might do in these type of cases where a physical injury may appear later?
Yes,
Okay. And you know, if this is fair, at some point, there is an attempt to get a photograph or an alleged photograph off of her phone, right?
correct.
Okay. And can you tell me this? You are a forensic examiner of cell phones.
Correct.
All right. And you didn't do the extraction on her phone, but you reviewed it, right?
Correct.
Okay. And can you tell me is there a difference in when you do these extractions between allocated and unallocated space?
Yes, unallocated is just like deleted space.
Okay, so if I'm on my phone looking at some website or some video or something, and I click off that, does that go into unallocated space?
It could be cached. I guess I'm not certain if it goes into unallocated or not. I apologize.
Is it, in your experience, your training and experience, is it more difficult to locate things in allocated or unallocated space?
It's easier to locate if it's not deleted, yes.
Okay. And you agree, well, let me ask you this. The reason you do these downloads sometimes in law enforcement is you're looking specifically in some situations for things people delete off of their phones, right?
Yes,
Okay. And you can get a bunch of stuff sometimes off of deleted images or videos or text messages, things like that, right?
generally speaking, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And in your review of what you saw on the document review of Madison Cohen, there's no photograph recovered, correct? We know that.
Correct. During that time frame when she said it was taken, correct.
And there's nothing in that document review or that report that indicates that there was a photo that had been deleted either, right?
Correct. There showed no deleted photos on either examination of Madison Cohen or her mother's phone.
And I think Madison, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think Madison also had said that she might have actually texted that picture to her mother. Do you remember that?
Yes, or vice versa.
Okay. And that's the reason that you want to look at mom's phone is to see, well, there could be this text that went through. So even if Madison deleted it, we can get it from mom, right?
And there was, I don't have the right word. Neither was certain which one took it either. So we weren't sure if mom took it or Madison took it. But yes, that was part of it as well.
Okay. And you do the forensic examination for Madison Cohen's mother's phone?
Correct.
Okay. And if I word this incorrectly, let me know.
Yes, sir.
No photograph that was in her, well, I'm going to say like saved images, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have photos on my phone of my children and things like that.
Yes, sir.
Nothing in that area that you could just access by kind of swiping through, right?
I'm sorry, I
Nothing
don't
as it relates
understand.
to Madison's picture
Oh,
of her face.
correct. Yes.
And nothing in her deleted images which would support the claim that either she took the photo or Madison sent her the photo, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I know that you said in some situations, sometimes we just don't get images, right?
Yes.
But that would have to happen in both of these cases then, right?
Yes.
You agree that you would never say, or you didn't say to Madison Cohen, I don't need that photo, it doesn't matter. Right?
Correct.
Okay, you would, in a case like this,
Can I-
you guys, when I say you guys, law enforcement, you wanted every piece of evidence you could get, right?
I can, and can I correct myself in my last one or just clarify? If she told me she had a photo, yes, I would want that. Maybe being empathetic and saying it's okay, don't worry about it, yes, but no, if there was a photo, yes, we would want it.
Sure. So when she said, I told them I have a photo, and they said, don't worry about it, that's not something you would say, right? Like,
We
"Don't
did
worry
say
about
don't
it."
worry about it, but we didn't say that we did not want it, if that's what you're asking. I'm sorry.
Right. No, you would, in a homicide case, you would want all the information that you could possibly get your hands on, right?
Correct, yes, sir. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
Oh, you're good. Did you ever, and I don't know if this is possible, this MOCIC,
Yes,
do they have the ability to get information off of phones that you don't?
I asked them, and actually, this is where I learned, it got compressed. I didn't know that that could happen. And they said, there's nothing else that they can do besides the resize of the video.
I'm
So
asking
no,
again.
no, they couldn't do anything more than I did.
Okay, so as it relates to looking for the information on Madison and Madison's mother's phone,
Yes.
you giving that to this, this organization that has more resources, that wouldn't have been useful? I'm just asking.
I don't know if they take phones, they might. I assume that they use the same Celebrite and or Axiom, Magnet Axiom that we use, but I don't know, sir.
You were asked questions about when you saw Owen, Ryan, and Alex, if you ever tested their alcohol level or asked for a test. You remember that?
I do.
Okay. And you've heard, for example, Owen testify that he was drinking beer and doing shots of alcohol and using marijuana, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm not being critical, it's more of a background question. You would agree drinking and using drugs may impact a person's ability to accurately perceive what's going on, right?
Yes,
Okay. And it can also impact their ability to just recall it too, right?
it can.
Okay. And you know, or you've heard by sitting at trial, all of these people admit that they had been drinking. Some admit they've been drinking and using marijuana, right?
I believe with the exception of Sheena, I think she said she was not drinking.
I meant the boys.
Oh, sorry, yes.
And do you think it would be knowing, I'll ask it this way, bad question. Do you know what Isaac Schumann's alcohol concentration was?
Don't recall. I can estimate, but I don't recall exactly what it was.
You know, well, I'll ask it to you this way. You know that he was legally intoxicated, right?
Yes,
Okay, and you know that he was well above the legal limit, right?
yes.
Would it be helpful for you to know if those boys were also above the legal limit and highly intoxicated when you took those statements?
It could be, as we talked about earlier, it could have an impact on what they said.
If those boys would have said to you that Mr. Mew was looking for little girls, would you have noted that somewhere?
Yes,
Okay, because we throw this word around, you've heard this word pedophile thrown around over and over. You take that seriously, right?
yes. The majority of the crimes I investigate involve crimes against children.
Right, so if somebody says to you, investigator, this guy's talking about looking for little kids based on your background, you'd be interested in that, right?
Yes,
And you'd agree, nowhere in any report that you prepared, do you document or indicate that they ever mentioned to you that he was looking for little girls? True?
I'm not trying to be argumentative again. Them specifically, no, but other people told me that they said that, so I documented did it in my reports. But the boys specifically, no, sir.
Right, well, you've heard the testimony in this case. You heard Owen Pelican today said that Mr. Mew told him that, right?
Yes,
Owen Pelican never told you that, right?
correct.
So can you tell me, based on your training and experience, both as a hostage kind of negotiator and as a SWAT team, member of the SWAT team, would you consider what happened here to be a highly stressful event?
Yes,
Okay. And your training and experience, if this is fair, tells you that people react differently in highly stressful events. Is that fair?
correct.
Okay. Have you been, sounds like you have been in multiple times in your professional life in highly stressful events?
Correct.
And you might react differently than another officer might react, right?
Correct.
And in these highly stressful events, have you, through your training and experience, seen situations where people's bodies react to the highly stressful event? Do you know what I mean by that?
No, sorry.
Okay. Do you know, or has it been your experience that sometimes people might, as you've heard, go white, where their body reacts to a highly stressful event? Have you seen people go pale in highly stressful events?
I'm sure I have. I can't recall, but I'm sure I have.
Have you seen them become quiet, kind of almost catatonic?
Again, I'm sure I have. I just can't think of a specific time.
Wide-eyed?
Yes,
Okay. And does your training and experience tell you that those are things that their body is just doing, right? Their body is getting wide-eyed, or they're getting white, or things like that, right?
yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't know that I understand it all the way.
Don't apologize, investigator.
Okay.
You're doing fine. Can I ask you, you were asked some questions about the river and the depths of the river and things like that.
Correct.
Okay. Now, you would agree, to be fair, you can drown in calf-deep water, right?
Potentially, yes.
Right. So, especially if you get knocked unconscious, you can drown in 6 inches of water, right?
I would suspect so, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is you had talked about different areas of the river where you were kind of maybe up to your shoulders or up to your chest or up to your waist. You don't need to be in that deep of water if you're unconscious to drown.
Correct.
So when Mr. Mew was, I think you heard the testimony, they're asking him to walk downriver, right? That's what you heard from the testimony?
I believe it's all angles, but mostly downriver, especially initially with Ms. Cohen, I believe.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I got it right. They want him, according to the testimony, they want him to walk this way, the way the arrow's pointing, right?
At some points, yes.
Okay, and did you hear Mr. Mew say that at some points there, the river is a little bit deeper than where he was standing?
Did I hear him say that? No, sir.
You didn't hear that on, Coleman said that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question with Coleman?
Coleman said that the river at various points as you move downriver becomes deeper, right?
Yes.
So is that true? The direction that they were pointing him to walk, the water would have been deeper, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you, as a lead investigator, were you the officer who prepared the information for the crime lab regarding DNA on what was to be swabbed and where it was to be swabbed?
No, sir.
Do you know who did that?
I don't, I'm sorry.
I'm done, Judge. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson?
You're asked about deleted photos. When you did these forensic downloads of the phones, was it more common to find deleted photos or not find deleted photos?
It's more common to not find the deleted photos than it is to find them.
And you were asked about Roberto Baldazzo and his statement that he had thought he dropped it while running up to aid some stabbing victims. Do you recall that question?
I do.
You said that you saw a body cam of him with the knife in his shorts. What was he doing at that point in the body cam?
Providing aid to Isaac.
And prior to July 30th, 2022, had you ever seen Madison Cohen before?
No,
So you didn't have any sort of frame of reference for what her cheeks or what she looked like before that?
correct.
Exhibit 51. It's a flash drive. Just because our map is cut off there and you're asked about the spot by the bridge, I want to pull up Lieutenant Coleman's presentation. I'll let the clerk know when I'm ready. All right, can we have the screen, please? Is the spot where it got deep, close to the bridge, visible on that image on the right?
Sorry, I don't think I'm following.
Can you draw on your screen if the judge can enable it, where you call that deep spot being that was near to the bridge?
Where it gets deeper, yes.
Yeah,
To the best of my recollection, can I use it on the regular one or do you want it on Lieutenant Coleman's drawing?
I guess either.
Right in that area there.
Okay. And just for the record, Judge, this is slide 13 of Exhibit 51. I don't have anything else.
Mr. Trofisi?
Do you ask Madison Cohen why she would possibly delete a photograph in a case like this?
We did, yes.
You did?
But I guess I don't know if we asked, but she made a statement that it was causing her anxiety. She didn't want to think about it. That's possibly why she deleted the photos.
And in terms of what you observed when she came out of the water, you've heard in this courtroom far more detail about kind of how this went down than you did that day, right?
Yes,
Right, so, I mean, you heard Madison Cohen get on the witness stand for however long and testify about what had occurred, right?
correct, yes.
You've heard other people explain what they observed between Mr. Mew and Madison Cohen as well, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And so you've heard that this 248-pound man threw a hook, by some people's estimation, threw a hook to this girl's face and knocked her down, right? You've heard that.
I guess checks on relevance with this witness. I don't know what you can answer about what
I'm gonna,
Well, overruled. I mean, it was said in court. It's
you've
continued.
heard that, right?
yes, some have said that.
Okay. And you didn't see a single mark on her face based on that, did you?
I did not see a mark on her face, no, sir.
Such interesting.
All right, thank you, investigator. You can
Yes,
step
Judge.
down. It is 11:45. This is probably the best place to break for lunch. So we'll break a little bit early. We'll reconvene at 12:45. Please take the jury out.
All rise for the jury.